Hello, welcome to Introduction to HTML. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages. Every visible entity that you can find on a web page is actually defined by HTML elements. These elements are what tells the browser what and how they should render the content. So in this video, we are going to look at how we can design this page using HTML. What to do is to start up by writing our HTML code. By now, I believe that you have your VS Code installed, and the next thing for you to do is to create a folder, and which I've done, and I'm going to go ahead to add my HTML file, which I'm going to call index.html. I will just do index.html. So right away, if I go to where I have it saved on my system, you will notice that I have my index.html there. So any change I make, I could just open it up and it will show on the browser. Here, what I do next is I can go ahead and start writing my HTML elements. So I'm going to be writing those elements out, and one after the other, I'm going to explain what those elements are and what they do. So the first element you put in right there is called HTML tag. This HTML tag tells the browser that this document is an HTML page, and the browser should treat it as such. As you can tell, you will know that the browser can actually render so many components. It can even render Word documents, PDF, but as it is, you are telling this document that it's an HTML document. So that's what this first tag is all about. The next element is our head, the head tag. The head tag has ability to contain more than one element as well, but we'll be focusing on the title element. The title element allows the browser to display the title of what it is you are looking at. So what goes in here is whatever we type in here. So we can type in here my first HTML page. So if you save that and refresh this page, you get to see my first HTML page just as we've written it here. So that's the work of the title. The final thing we'll be talking about is the body tag. So the body tag allows it to display, it contains the body of the document. Whatever you want to be in this section will be whatever you put under the body tag. So we'll just write welcome to my first page. So once we save that, we get to see the results here. So what we've done now is to create, this is our first HTML page, and these are the tags required for you to get going on your first page. You need the HTML start and close tag. You need the head, which contains the title, and notice the way I've nested all my tags. This is for readability, and you should also use this rule so that you can come back and read your code and make modification. By the time we will be doing the next example, you see how easy it is for us to go through the code. What we are trying to achieve is to design the Facebook login page. Okay, so what we have done is just to show you how to get started. The next thing is now to introduce other elements like how do I input a text box, how do I create a link from one page to another, how do I add colors, how do I add styles. So those are the things that HTML allow you to achieve. All these effects, mouse over effects, those things are designed with other parts of HTML components that we are going to check out in this video. In the Facebook login page, we can start with the title right here and change that to Facebook. And we have a dash login, or let's see what that reads. Sign up. Okay, that is for the title. So the body, the content now talks about the logo, which is Facebook here. And at the bottom we have Facebook. Let's just copy and paste. We have at the bottom, we have this. So let's see what is telling us. So this is what we get. And right off, let's try and break this and see what happens. Even if we break the Facebook is not coming down. So what's going on here? So what's happening is that the way HTML treats your text is different from the way you expect it to be. So everything has to be a command. If you really want this font to be bigger, you have to tell the HTML tag that you want that particular font to be bigger. So notice that nothing has been done to the site. It's just all pure white, while Facebook has gone through processing. They've applied some styling and designing to it, which we will also add, and that's the essence of this tutorial, to show you how to actually achieve what has been done here, the secret behind what has been done here to achieve that same effect. So we'll go through all that now. So let's introduce the H1 tag. That's for heading. So HTML, you have a lot of tags in HTML, and it's very important that you know all the tags so that you can know what you need to use for any scenario. So in this case, I'm just using H1 and H2 tag, and the purpose is to say, oh, this paragraph first header, and this is second header. So the next thing I need to do is to align this Facebook in the middle. So I'm going to do that. I want to wrap this whole H1 and H2 inside another component or element called div, and the purpose of this element is just for arrangements and for globalized styling. So what I want to introduce is what I call attributes. Attributes are a way to apply additional information to the tag. So, and then those additional information will be applied to everything within that root element. So right now, what I want to introduce is styling. I want to be able to style this tag in such a way that I want to group all these items here in the middle, just like the way it's done here. So right now, what we want to introduce is CSS, which is Cascaded Style Sheet. Cascaded Style Sheets allow you to style your component, and that's what makes HTML beautiful. Without style sheets, without styling your element, it won't look nice. So that's what we want to do now. So I want to provide the margin of this to be auto. I'm just specifying the width to be 50%, and you will notice I'm having semicolon, and the use of this semicolon is to differentiate the styling. So this is saying the margin of the element, which is this is the div now. Everything I've highlighted now is the div. So I'm saying the margin should be auto left and right, but the width should be 50 at the width of the whole div, which is the div, which is what I'm highlighting. And I can further specify more parameter or more styling. Let's go ahead and say that's green, for example, that is solid base. So you have that styling there. So that's the purpose of the styling, but that's not what Facebook looks like. So we're designing to make it look like Facebook. So I'm going to remove the border part of it and look at what else we need to do. So notice the Facebook is in the middle. So how do we put that there? There's another styling that helps us to achieve that, and where to apply that styling is very important. So this alignment of Facebook in the middle is attached to our H1. So that's what I'm gonna do there. I'm gonna have my style and have my text align to center. So that should work for us. The next thing we need to do, we'll worry about the font and the color later. The next thing we need to do is also look at the distance between the Facebook here and the browser here in the previous one. The next part we want to focus on is this section where we have our email, password, and the login button. That's the next part we want to focus on. So we now have can look at the tags and the HTML code and see what's going on here. This is where we'll have the alignment, and notice where the H2 ends, which is here. That would be a perfect place for us to have our text box, which should be somewhere here. So if I come here, you can see our text box is showing right about here. So that's a perfect place for us to have our div, which will have this border before your text box will now come in. So we already know how to do a div, which is just by doing div. The div doesn't do anything, just to create a kind of container for your other components that you have. So how do you then put a text box? Is by using input and specifying the name. You say this will be email. You can specify the value. By default is blank, and placeholder. Placeholder is what it should be written inside it by default. So what is written inside here is email, address, or phone number. So you can see that is what it's looking like that a little bit, only that it's not styled. So we need to stretch it to the end and make it allow us to have more space on the top left and bottom. So how do we achieve that? Is by including our styling. So in our styling, we want to focus on padding and margin. Padding is what gives space to the top and the bottom, edge left and right. The same thing with margin, it also have that effect. So let's start with padding of 10 pixels, and we want to make it to be 100% in width, meaning you want it to stretch from here where it's starting from to the ending. So we'll have our width and say 100%. So that has been achieved. We'll just do a little tweak to it. We can just let it go. We can just do 15. So the font is a little bit bigger, but that can be excused. So let's move on to the password. So we just duplicate what we have here as the password. And we have the same thing there, but notice there is no space between the two texts. So how do we make that happen? That's where your margin comes in. So margin top, we could say 10, and the placeholder says password. You can then change the placeholder to read password. So if we check it again, we now see that distance is being respected. We now have that distance showing. We can do 15. So the next thing is you notice the edges along the side. You can also add those edges to it. But before we go ahead and add the edges, there's this border surrounding the text box. So we need to bring those border in, and that can be added within this div. Anything we style within this div is going to style from here downward. So this is a good place to put our styling that will cover the two text box. Mind you, we still have our button. Let's add our button first. So your button can be added this way, and we can call this login. Let's see how it looks like. So this is how your button looks like. So let's go ahead and style it as well. So we can have the same style. So we do the same padding, the same width, the same margin, but this time around, yeah, the top. Okay, so the same thing is being applied. So but notice the color is different. We will address the color as we continue. So the next thing we need to work on is the border. So let's work on the border here and we identify that this place is the perfect place for us to put the style to help us with the border. So we add our style and we go ahead and put let's add a color. I have to say we want a border 1x solid, and I'll use gray. Let's see what we have. So we'll have this border. You will notice there's a space in between the border and the text box. So that's a margin, that's a padding rather. So let's see what 10px will look like. So 10px gave us this look. Let's go for 15. We have this. So we want to create the curved edges. So curved edges will be done with border radius. So let's try 10. So we have that border radius there. We can also notice there's a border radius applied to our email and also our password. So I'm just going to quickly add that, and we have our border radius added there. So maybe not too sharp. Okay, so we can see that it's looking different. So let's go ahead and keep styling to make it look similar. But before we go ahead and style, we need to introduce a proper way of styling. As you can see, our document is becoming, bigger and more robust, and is getting difficult to read, especially with the styling coming in. So what CSS allow you to do is to separate your styling from your HTML tag, and it's actually recommended that we have it separated. So what I'm going to introduce is to introduce a global styling setting here, where all these styles will now be extracted and taken up for us to go ahead and do the proper styling. We start our styling from the beginning, from the top. So we have our what's responsible for grouping everything in the middle. We can call it the frame. I'll remove this styling. Before I remove it, I have to start creating what I call class name. So class name is used to style and attach to an element. So I can call this class, and to denote a class we specify start with a dot. I can call this the main and add my style here. So everything here in the style tag, I'm going to remove it and put it inside main, such that I can now rename my style to be main here. It doesn't change our design. What it changes is that it allows your code to be a little bit cleaner and your style to be reusable. So the next thing I want to do here, I want to show you how to have an advanced styling without giving it class and going ahead to still have a proper styling name. So I want to go ahead and style everything that has to do with main and also h1. So meaning I want to style this without adding the style name, without having class name, and I want it to be in this form. So if I come here without that, you see the Facebook is outside. So if I come here and I'm styling main, a class of main that has h1, it will now style it center for me. That's the advantage of having CSS. So this is what we call Cascaded style sheet, and we can have this document outside of HTML here and reference it back when we need it. So the next part we are going to is we want to style this part here. So I will call this form container. I will do form container, and I'll provide our styling there. So the form container will be here. So if you come here, you notice the styling will go away, and I can come here and call the class and say my class for this is form container. So reference everything in form container inside here. The next thing I want to do is to style the email. So I'll go ahead and say, in fact, I will not only style the mail, but I will style everything that is an input tag. So that way I can copy out this tag here and remove what is here. If I come out, you notice that the email is not styled again, the password is not styled again. If I come here and apply the style I've copied, now I have both my password and my email styled. So let's not forget our space in between. So how do we implement our space? We can go ahead and add an advanced styling parameter that talks about, so let's go ahead and add for every element that we have here, we have to put, we can say that it has a margin bottom that will also address our login space. So if we have 15 pixels, we have that, so it has created an excess space for us here. So we will not need to style our margin top for our button. So let's go ahead and also provide for our button. So we style button this way and we'll remove the styling on the button. So look at what we've been able to achieve. What we've been able to do is that we made our HTML lean, back the way it's supposed to be, and we kept our style separately. In this way, you will be able to go back and tweak your design without actually touching your HTML, and your HTML still looks cleaner and readable this way. So let's try to design the border, the shadow here. So that is applied under this part here, that's the form container. So there's what we call box shadow that helps to actually achieve that. And I've looked at what we have on Facebook, and the effects can be drawn out from something like this. 0, 0. This is RGBA with transparency. So this is actually advanced CSS. Can have something similar like that as well. So we have a look like this, but the border here is too sharp. So I have to use a lighter color here. So let's give it a try. So that looks close enough. So we can move on to also the input element is also too thick, so we can use something lighter. Okay, so let's check out the color for the button as well. Let's change the color for the button. Then we can make the color white and font weight to be bold. And we can increase the font size to, let me see what 20 will look like. That will be too big, 20. So let's say 18. We can also change the font size of the input boxes to, let's look what 13 feels like. So let's do 15 or 16. Okay, that's looking better. And let's look at the color. This gray might be too sharp, but let's take a look at the gray. Okay, the gray looks better. So let's try and work on the fonts of the general website. So let's look at the tag called body. What they are trying to say is that all body should have a specific font. So let's do font family, and let's use this font. Okay, make the H2 a little bit lighter. So let's add a little bit of padding to the bottom, and let's add it to the container instead. Margin top 20. So we should have a distance from here to here. So we've added that. The next thing we want to work around is to add the logo. So if you notice, our logo here is a text. However, the logo on Facebook is an image. So that would be a good way to show you how to bring in image into your page they are designing. So let's save this onto our desktop. You could do that by right clicking and save image. So you could save it on your desktop and we'll bring it into our project. So I'll bring this into my project right away, and then you'll see how we can bring it in to our view here so that you can see the referencing. Downloading the Facebook logo is saved with .svg. You can have images with PNG or JPEG. Facebook decided to save theirs with .svg. I have it on my root directory, and it's also on the app here. So we then need to introduce a tag called img, that's image tag, and it's going to we're going to be removing the h1 because we want to replace the image with h1 tag. So what I then do here is to create a kind of container and call it logo, so that my image can then sit inside here, and it has an attribute of src, which is the source, meaning the source of your logo or your image. So we have our image already saved in the root directory as logo.svg. So if I do that way, we then have our logo display in this form. So it looks big. What we can do is to style it. So we can style our logo class in our CSS. So we style it, we style the image part of it, and we can say the height can be 106 pixels, and let's see how it looks like. We have that. The next thing for us is to align the logo to center. Text align. And we have that. So it's looking very close to what we have on Facebook. And the next step for us now will be to design the bottom part of the Facebook page, and to show you how to do linking from one page to another, because we still have to do forget password and create new account. Those parts will show you how to link one page to another. Login button, we can have our forget password here, so we can have it in the container, div container, and it will just sit right there. The next thing for us to do is to style it, so I can call it forget pass. Have a class here. We want to make it align to center. We also want to provide this border on the bottom, so we can then say border bottom, add that color there. We can then create a kind of padding at the bottom, or generally to be 15. And let's look at how that feels. Okay, can we compare to what we have? So we need more bottom padding at the bottom, so we can maintain padding to the top, to be 10. We can maintain the bottom to be 20 or 15, and we can take a look at what we have. So that's better. Then add the actual link, which is a tag. An a element is used to link one page to another page. So provide an a tag, and we need to provide an attribute, which is title href, and we are linking into a page we've not yet created, but let's call the page forget.html or atm. That will be the new page we'll be linking to. Notice there's a change in the color and the font, and then the browser now gives us the ability for us to click. So if we click this, we are going to get an error because that page does not exist yet. So let's continue with our design. The next thing we have is a button, which is a little bit smaller and is in the middle, and that is for us to create an account. Let's go ahead and create that. So after the forget pass, we have another button, which can then be titled create new account. We can style this to be account button. So it has a color green effect, which is different from what we have here. Notice there's a distance between the create new button and the bar we have there, so we need to demarcate that bar. So how do we do that? For forget password, we need to add a margin. Using bottom. So let's do 20. So that's the demarcation. Background. Eliminate the shadow we have underneath the button. We can say border 1x solid and repeat the same color that we have here, and do the same thing for the button. So it looks better this way. So the Facebook page here needs to be aligned. This one is center in the middle, while this one is to the left. Let's see. This is what controls it, the main H2. So we can actually repeat and say text align, center, and we should have something like this, which feels better. Another thing we need to look at is the last link at the bottom that says create a page for a celebrity, brand, or business. So let's duplicate that, and that happens at the end of the main container. That's the form container that we have here. So that happens at the end of this part. So let's go ahead and just paste what we've copied and see what happens. So it's just sitting right there. Again, we have to style it. Let's see the distance that we have there. There's a major distance going up there, so we can repeat the same thing there. Again, let's put it inside a div. So that won't do anything until you start styling. So you have to let's call it our order link. Order container. So we can start this. So adding I think the font is okay. The next thing is now to make the create a page clickable by adding a tag, adding href attributes, opening and closing the tag within create a page, then sending it to a new page called create a page. That does not exist yet. So when you come here, you now have a page clickable. The final bit is at the bottom here. So what we just need to do is that's after the main, you can come here and say footer. And we'll come here, we see that it's being rendered at the bottom here. So what we do is just create a div and have a class, call it footer. So what we just show what we can show right there is just to put meta 2022. We can just reference process guy 2022. We need to add the border here, meaning whites all down, and notice this part is not white, this is off white, so we need to add that color here, and the remaining part of the background can then carry white. So let's go ahead and style that bit. First of all, we style the footer section. You can set the background color to be white. Then we set the main body of color. That's the main, or we can set the whole body. So we have option to set our style sheet either in the main or in the body. So I've styled the footer here. color of the font, align center, height 200. I added the border. I've also gone ahead to make color adjustment to the background of the whole text of the whole HTML document. Another thing again, you will notice that the color is a little different from what we have on. So what that means is that this container, they start, so that will, so you can just change the background color to the white, and that will be all for that. So the next thing we want to do next is the linking. To link this page to design other pages and make the link work. By default, when you click on this link, they don't go anywhere. It just gives you an error because that page does not exist. So we have to go ahead and create those pages now.